Anissa Jomhar's husband, the creator, formerly known as iDubbbz, has been stuck in a never-ending cycle of self-sabotage. Over the past few months, things have somehow managed to get worse than most viewers thought possible. Not only has he lost over 1 million subscribers, he's burned bridges with creators who used to defend him, won lolcal of the year, taken shots at people who barely even know him like Moist Critical, and at one point even ended up cosplaying as a VTuber dragon while begging for Twitch subscribers.
Please, I need your subs. Look at this, the Denny's patrons. They're rapidly declining, we need your subs.
And the list could go on and on. At this point, it's honestly impressive how far Ian and Anissa have managed to sink over the past year, and somehow it still doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today we're taking a look at the full downward spiral of iDubbbz and everything that led to it, as we explore the never-ending humiliation of iDubbbz. The last time I talked about Ian, his charity boxing event, Creator Clash, was already in a terrible spot. Ian had just uploaded his content cop on Ethan Klein, and that video set off a chain reaction that nobody involved was prepared for. Within days, multiple fighters started dropping out, and Ian's own boxing coach, Michael Briggs, ended up going on the H3 podcast to talk about what it was actually like working with him, and the picture he painted was not great. The coach openly said he believed Anissa had ruined Ian's life. His wife, Kate, who had also helped train both Ian and Anissa, shared something even more serious. Kate is a survivor of child marriage. She had been forced into a marriage from the age of 12 until she was 23, and Ian and Anissa both knew about it. When a bill was being pushed in the US to ban child marriage, Kate reached out to them and asked if they could help spread awareness. According to her, they just left the message on read.
Last year, right, 2024, I learned that there was a House bill in Washington State trying to pass House Bill 1455 to end child marriage. And so when I learned of this bill, I thought to myself, even though it had been 15 years since I escaped my prison, like, this is a chance for me to come forward and tell my story. I sent, so Michael and I went to Olympia in Washington. We met with politicians. We lobbied to support the bill. I gave my public testimony to support the bill. And, I was on Seattle Times and television and everything. And I reached out to Ian and Anissa and I asked them if they could help, share the information, because it was really important to me that this bill passed. And they just both left me on red. But guess what? Today, when they saw the highlights on Ian's story that we were going to be on here, Anissa was texting me and Michael, and they were like,
they reached.
Yeah.
The main issue she had with Ian was the image he presented to the world. Online, he portrayed himself as this thoughtful, empathetic guy who had grown and matured. But when someone actually came to him asking for help with something serious, she felt like he simply did not care. Not long after that interview dropped, the news everyone expected finally became official. Creator Clash 3 was cancelled, which wasn't very surprising. By that point, a huge portion of the fighters had already pulled out, and the public image of the event was basically unrecoverable. A lot of that damage came from Ian himself. He released the content cop right before the event was supposed to happen, and several of the fighters on the card were literally employees of the H3 podcast. Once the cancellation was announced, things somehow managed to get even worse. One of the fighters, a creator known as Nathan Barnatt, better known online as Dad, uploaded a video titled Creator Clash 3 Cancelled, Dad Tells All. According to Dad, both Creator Clash events left him in a really rough financial spot. Fighters were given about $20,000 for training, which he spent entirely preparing for the second event. He expected there might be some kind of bonus afterward, but after the event underperformed, that bonus never came. At one of the parties, he says Anissa told him the reason they did not have the extra money was because people had pirated the stream. Meanwhile, he had already put his body through months of training and injuries for an event that ultimately went nowhere. At one point, he was camping with some of the other fighters when Ian casually mentioned that he was working on a content cop about Ethan Klein. Dad originally thought it was some kind of promotional stunt to build hype for the event, but the more Ian talked about it, the more it sounded like he genuinely wanted to start a public fight with Ethan. That was the moment Dad says he realized the whole thing might blow up.
Then Ian tells me, before Creator Clash 3 is about to happen, I'm putting out a hit piece on Ethan Klein. And I'm thinking, oh my God, dude, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to cause trouble? Because now I'm thinking, this is gonna ruin Creator Clash 3, and I'm gonna get screwed again.
Trying to understand what was going on, Dad even sent a $20 donation to Ethan during a stream, and asked about the situation. Almost immediately, Anissa messaged him a screenshot of his own donation asking if it was real. According to him, she then called both him and fellow fighter Harley Morenstein, who had also dropped out, and told them they had heard her and Ian. On top of that, Dad said he felt blindsided by the way Jomha talked about him behind the scenes. He said they mocked him for being weird, which he found ironic considering the entire premise of Creator Clash was internet personalities and eccentric creators stepping into the boxing ring.
This thing I want to say is that I always tried to be respectful of them, publicly and personally, when I was talking to them. I've always given them the benefit of the doubt and never really wanted to place blame on them or anyone. And then it turns out they were just talking trash about me behind my back. Ian's coach said on H3 that they used to say I was weird and talk trash about me, and then I also heard the same thing from Froggy Fresh 2 years ago.
Eventually, the frustration boiled over. Dad publicly challenged Ian to a boxing match and even sent him several texts asking if he would be willing to do it. Ian's response was short and pretty dismissive. Oh brother, kick rocks. It's also important to keep this in mind. Dad was not some random critic. If anything, he was one of Ian and Anissa's biggest supporters. During the controversy around Creator Clash 2, he was constantly on Twitter defending the event. Whenever someone criticized it, Dad would jump in and remind everyone it was for charity. He was easily one of the most vocal defenders they had. Even with all of that, he eventually hit a breaking point. And ironically, while Ian created that content cop to try and bring down Ethan Klein, the whole situation ended up giving Ethan more ammunition than he could have ever asked for. By the time the dust had settled, Ian had burned an unbelievable number of bridges with fighters, trainers, and people who were originally there to support Creator Clash. This would be far from the first bridge Ian decided to torch, and it definitely wouldn't be the last. For most of his career, Ian built his entire brand around calling people out. That was the appeal of his channel for years. When someone on the internet did something dumb, hypocritical, or embarrassing, Ian was usually the one making a video about it. His Content Cop series became one of the most recognizable formats on YouTube because people trusted him to say what other creators were too afraid to say, which makes his current situation pretty ironic, because lately Ian has been doing something that the old version of himself probably would have roasted mercilessly. Instead of focusing on his own content, he has started taking shots at creators who really had no reason to be involved with his drama at all. The biggest example of this is his strange fixation with Moist Critical, better known to most people as Charlie. For anyone who has watched Charlie's channel over the years, the two creators actually had a lot in common. Both built their reputations on commentary about internet culture. Both were known for criticizing weird behavior online, and both had audiences that overlapped quite a bit during the mid to late 2010s. If anything, Charlie was one of the few large creators who never seemed particularly hostile towards Ian, even when Ian's public image started taking hits over the last few years. Charlie's comments about him were relatively mild compared to what other creators were saying. He never launched some massive attack video or tried to dogpile him during controversies. This was a bridge that never needed to burn, but somehow Ian managed to light the match anyway. During a stream and a few podcast appearances, Ian started talking about what he calls the alt-right pipeline. His argument is that certain creators who avoid taking strong political stances end up indirectly helping extremist ideas spread online. According to him, audiences who watch neutral commentary channels can slowly drift towards more radical content over time. On paper, that sounds like a complicated discussion about internet culture. In practice, the way Ian explained it made almost no sense. For reasons that were never clearly justified, he decided to use Charlie as one of the main examples. Ian argued that creators who mostly stay non-political create a space where viewers with different ideologies can comfortably exist in the same audience. In his mind, that environment somehow allows extreme political ideas to grow unchecked.
The thing that kind of first stands out to me is that I never perceived 2016 iDubbbz to be ideologically like right-wing or ideologically hateful in the way that those other two are. Like,
it's part of the pipeline, though. It's the same reason people wouldn't say Charlie, Moist Critical, is right-wing or like
Yeah.
as ideologically fucked out there as like a Nick Fuentes or even Asmongold, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
he holds
works-
some space for the people in his audience who might have some differing opinions. He doesn't make it clear, like, I don't want you in my fucking community, like, outright.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get it. I get the hustle. I did it for a while. But it is a little bit of cope. And I understand why people don't want to take the path that I took, because it breeds a lot of hate.
So even if the creator themselves is not promoting those ideas, they are still contributing to the pipeline. The problem is that Charlie is one of the worst possible examples he could choose from to make that argument. Charlie has spent years openly criticizing political figures, commenting on news stories, and making it clear where he stands on certain issues. And the strange part of this entire situation is that Ian eventually admitted that he does not even watch Charlie's content regularly.
Surely right wing. I've been watching his content for years and thought he aligned with you and Hasan most of the time. I mean, he might do it most of the time. I'm not exactly sure.
Think about that for a second. He publicly framed another creator as part of some dangerous political pipeline, while also admitting that he was not very familiar with that creator's actual videos. It's the kind of logic that would have been perfect material for an old Content Cop episode. The backlash from Ian's comments was immediate. Fans of both creators started pointing out how bizarre the accusations sounded. Many people also noticed that Charlie himself had never done anything to provoke this situation. This is jealous iDubbbz. It's not about holding them accountable, it's about them having more views than him. He used to be the golden boy, and he threw that all away. By choice, I might add. Which makes the entire situation feel less like a disagreement and more like unnecessary self-sabotage. Because from a purely strategic standpoint, Charlie was exactly the type of creator Ian should have stayed on good terms with. He runs one of the largest commentary channels on the platform, consistently pulls millions of views, and tends to stay out of pointless feuds unless someone directly drags him into one. Having someone like that in your corner, or at least on neutral ground, is valuable when your reputation online is already shaky. Instead, Ian decided to frame him as part of a larger problem with internet culture. Another thing that made the situation even more awkward was the way Ian talked about his own past during these conversations. Over the last few years, he has repeatedly described his earlier content as cruel or harmful. He often frames the old era of his channels like it was some kind of moral failure. That perspective is very different from how most viewers remember it. Back in the mid-2010s, edgy commentary was basically the norm on YouTube. A huge portion of the platform operated on shock humor and exaggerated criticism. Ian's videos fit perfectly into that environment. Whether people loved or hated them, they were clearly meant as entertainment rather than serious political messaging. But when Ian talks about that era today, he sometimes suggests those videos were part of a much darker culture. And by doing that, he ends up indirectly accusing many of the same viewers who supported him back then. It creates a strange dynamic where Ian seems frustrated with the very audience that helped build his career in the first place, and that frustration sometimes spills into how he talks about other creators. Instead of building new alliances or repairing old relationships, he keeps drifting into arguments that accomplish very little. The conflict with Charlie is a perfect example of this pattern. It started with a questionable claim, escalated into public criticism, and ultimately damaged a relationship that never needed to be damaged. And the saddest part is how avoidable it all was. Ian did not expose a major scandal. He did not uncover some hidden hypocrisy. He simply decided that another creator represented a problem with the internet, even though he admitted he was not very familiar with that creator's work. Instead of focusing on rebuilding his channel, he kept wandering into debates that only made his situation worse. The old iDubbbz built his reputation by dissecting other people's mistakes. Now, he keeps making the same kind of mistakes that his old audience instantly recognizes. And burning a completely unnecessary bridge with Charlie might be one of the clearest examples yet. If there's one golden rule of content creation, it's this: never feed the trolls. Most creators understand this pretty quickly. If you want something to disappear, the worst thing you can do is shine a spotlight on it. The moment you start arguing with random people online, you turn a tiny comment into a full-blown spectacle. One of the easiest ways to spot a lolcow is watching them do this exact thing. Scroll through their replies and you'll see them arguing with accounts that have 0 likes, 0 engagement, and 0 relevance. Completely random comments that nobody would have ever noticed. But they just cannot stop themselves. What makes this especially strange is that Ian actually seemed to understand this years ago. Back in the early days of his channel, he knew how internet culture worked. He knew that attention is the only currency that matters online. Somewhere along the way, that knowledge completely vanished.
Hasan is a lolcow. And that removed any amount of what is this out of my brain? I'm like, oh, they don't like progressive people.
A few months after the Creator Clash disaster, he proved it by uploading a response video where he directly addressed people making fun of him. The video was meant to push back against critics and also call out his former boxing coach, Mike Briggs. But the strangest part of the entire video was how much time he spent talking about 2 creators named Andy Warski and PPP. They host a show called Kino Casino, where they regularly make fun of Ian and Anissa. For most of the video, Ian tries to clap back at them and score points against their arguments. The problem is the moment he acknowledged them, he already lost. When you respond to people whose entire goal is getting a reaction out of you, you are giving them exactly what they wanted. Even the top comments on his video pointed this out. Dude fed the trolls, Lamau. Around the same time, Ian also went live on Twitch to watch the interview where his former coach spoke about working with him. During the stream, Ian added a lie counter in the corner of the screen and kept increasing it whenever he thought the coach said something untrue. While this was happening, Anissa was in the chat, implying that the coach had potentially been sexually harassing her, reading, "He wouldn't stop hugging me. It was really upsetting. I kept trying to push him off, and he wouldn't. It made me feel really embarrassed. And then he wouldn't let me leave. He kept hugging me, and I was trying to push him off, and I cried." Later on, the coach went back on the H3 podcast and explained his side of the story. According to him, the situation happened during a moment when Anissa was upset at the gym because of the music that was playing. He said he gave her a hug because she was crying and he wanted to check on her and see what was wrong.
I can move on from shit. They can't. So she's crying about it. I go give her a hug because I'm like, hey, I'm sorry that you're crying. I didn't hug her to the point where she started crying. I felt bad, so I gave her a hug.
She was crying.
And I said, yeah, she was bawling. So I
that's a crazy, malicious lie. The way she told that story is nuts. She's crying from the ox thing, and then she's making it sound like she's crying because you're like squeezing her and not letting her go.
But literally, because that makes no fucking sense.
It doesn't.
Why would I just be squeezing her? She disgusts me. She's always disgusted me. Her mind is disgusting.
By the time Ian's response video dropped, the hosts of Kino Casino were thrilled. The moment they realized he made an entire segment about them, they celebrated. They ran a long stream reacting to the video, reportedly making about $10,000 during the broadcast. And at one point, they even had more live viewers than XQC.
You slammed that, yo, this.
From there, the whole thing turned into a back and forth that lasted for weeks. But the bigger takeaway is pretty simple. The continued downfall and humiliation of Ian and Anissa is largely self-inflicted. Situation after situation keeps getting worse because they cannot resist responding to every jab, every troll, and every bait attempt thrown their way. If they ignored it, most of this stuff would disappear within a day. Instead, they keep feeding it. Despite cutting almost every possible relationship in the commentary space, you would think Ian might try to stay neutral for a while. But strangely enough, there is one major creator he seems very interested in staying close to, and that's Hasan Piker. This became especially obvious during Hasan's shock collar controversy. Instead of staying out of it, Anissa jumped onto Twitter and started firing off tweets defending Hasan. Just because Ethan's a horrible dog owner and can't train his dogs worth it doesn't mean other people are using shock collars. I've met Kaya. I saw Kaya while Hasan was streaming. She never had a shock collar on. She was good at her place command, but that's very easily accomplished with positive reinforcement. I would be very, very surprised if this was actually Kaya reacting to a shock collar. Not long after that, Ian echoed a similar tone while talking about the situation on stream.
It's Hasan's life. Hasan can, like, even if he was using a shock collar, like, literally, like, there's so many people using, not even shock collar, they call it an e-collar, right? Because that's, like, there's so much playing around with words as well that happen.
Now, whatever you think about Hasan and the whole dog controversy really isn't the main point here. The bigger thing to notice is how eager Ian and Anissa were to jump in and defend him. And when you zoom out a little, it starts to look like part of a much larger pattern. Over the last couple of years, Hasan has become one of the few large creators Ian seems genuinely interested in associating with. They have appeared together on streams several times. Ian has spoken positively about Hasan during conversations about politics and internet culture, and when Ian released his content cop targeting Ethan Klein, the opening segment of the video was practically a tribute to Hasan. Despite all the praise and public defense, Hasan is not even subscribed to Ian's channel on YouTube. It is one of those small details that people noticed almost immediately once fans started looking into their interactions, and that is where the situation starts to feel a little awkward, because the level of support Ian and Anissa showed towards Hasan sometimes goes beyond casual agreement. It often looks more like they are actively trying to align themselves with his audience and his political circle. One example that sparked a lot of discussion online involved the topic of Iran. For people who do not watch Hasan regularly, the easiest way to summarize his perspective is that he is extremely critical of the United States.
America deserved 9/11, dude. I'm saying it.
And often sympathetic towards countries that are typically viewed as adversaries by American media. Iran is one of those countries.
Lofi?
Yeah, he said he's been watching it since he was a kid.
No way!
Yeah.
That's sick. Yes, that's fire.
Ian and Anissa have clearly made note of this, and this is what led to the controversy that got them both into hot water. During a stream, Ian was watching a clip from the reality show 90 Day Fiancé. The scene featured an Iranian man named Moti, who had recently come to the United States. In the clip, he was describing the culture shock he felt after arriving in America. At one point, he talks about how strange it feels to see people singing, dancing, and celebrating openly in public. He explains that back in Iran, doing something like that could actually get you into trouble.
People singing and dancing like on the street, it just feels weird because if you do that in Iran, like they can arrest you. You know that?
For that?
Like this, like
It's a little eye-rolly, like why are you presenting it like it feels like he's paid to do propaganda for
the U.S.
Yeah.
Like the U.S. Like,
so this is so strange to me because I'm seeing everyone having such a good time here, being so free.
and laughing.
But in Iran, you would be arrested on the spot for having any sort of joy.
If you are ever feeling joy, they would arrest you in Tehran, Iran.
For most viewers, the moment was pretty straightforward. It was someone describing the difference between living in Iran and living in the United States. But Ian and Anissa immediately assumed the guy was exaggerating or performing for the camera, and that the whole thing sounded like propaganda for America. That was the beginning of the problem, because what Moti was saying was not some wild claim that came out of nowhere. Iran has a long history of restrictions on public behavior. Dancing in public has led to arrests before. Social media videos showing people dancing have gotten people detained. There have even been cases where people were punished for simply posting dance videos online. But instead of checking any of that, Ian treated the entire story like it was ridiculous. The same thing happened when the conversation shifted to dogs. Moti mentioned that in some places in Iran, walking a dog in public is also illegal. Instead of looking into it, Ian immediately dismissed the claim again. He basically said that there was no way that could be real.
You can't have your dog
On a leash?
even on a leash.
Well, where are you
This
supposed to keep it?
I don't know, at home.
Okay, so you don't know.
Everything has changed.
Keep this in mind, this information was extremely easy to verify. Anyone watching the stream could open a browser tab and find reports about cities in Iran restricting dog walking in public spaces. There are even stories of people being stopped by police for transporting dogs in their cars. Later on, Moti would actually confirm something similar during an interview. He talked about being pulled over before because a dog was in the vehicle he was riding in. So the situation that Ian was mocking had literally happened to him, but the stream kept moving forwards, and the tone never changed. Ian continued reacting to the clip like it was some over-the-top piece of propaganda designed to praise America. At one point, Moti explained that he has to be careful with what he says about Iran because his family still lives there. That should have been a pretty serious moment. Instead, Ian responded with sarcasm. He joked about the idea that the Iranian government would somehow come after him for speaking out.
You can speak freely here. You're in America.
Are you shit?
They're going to come find me and they're going to drone strike me. The Iranian government will drone strike me if I say mean things.
Listen, he's planning on going back, potentially, okay? And if he wants to travel back, he's got to be careful with what he says.
Bro.
Once again, it's not hard to research that people who criticize the Iranian government have faced serious consequences before, with some even being executed, especially if they still have family living inside the country. Once this clip circulated around, it became very notorious very fast, rising to the top of livestream fails. Not long after that, Moti's fiance from the show posted a message online, seemingly calling out Ian and Anissa, who mocked his story. Flashback to when so many of you mocked my husband and called him a liar. Most of these people who hadn't lived there in years or ever, telling him his reality wasn't real. I remember him reading it, hearing it, seeing it. He kept quiet, but I took note. My husband has always spoken to me with respect about the heart of Iran, while also being vocal about the injustice there. That's what he actually wanted you to see, but unfortunately, many didn't. Still, you said, it's not like that. People live freely. You're lying. Can you hear them now? The chanting, the screaming, the deaths. This is the reality you mocked. Many of you owed him an apology, but that's not what we need right now. Take 5 seconds to share something about Iran. If you call yourself a friend while turning away from what's happening in Iran, you are not a friend of mine. When Ian saw the post, he tried to brush it off. He argued that the message was not directed at him specifically, and claimed it was just a general statement about rude viewers.
Tiddlywink says, do you know the wife of the Iranian man responded to you and Anissa? She didn't respond to me and Anissa specifically. She was putting out a statement to people who were being rude or judgmental to her and her husband.
The post literally included screenshots from the stream where they were making fun of Moti, just with a clown emoji that covered Ian's face. It was about as direct as you can get without tagging someone by name. After these clips were passed around, Ethan Klein would use this to his advantage, and actually get an interview with Moti just in case it wasn't clear enough. And he himself confirms that his fiance was talking about Ian and Anissa.
And my wife was just like directly talking about them because you know,
iDubbbz is a creator who built his career on criticizing misinformation and ended up dismissing someone's lived experience without doing even basic research first. The entire controversy could have been avoided with about 30 seconds on a search engine, but instead, it turned into another moment where Ian managed to create a problem that did not need to exist in the first place. After burning through what feels like half the commentary community, Ian seems to have landed on a new strategy. If the old YouTube connections are gone, then maybe streaming will fix the problem. So he pivoted to Twitch. Unfortunately for him, the results have been pretty rough. Right now, his average live viewership sits around 135 viewers, which is a brutal number when you remember that this is a creator who used to pull tens of millions of views per upload. Viewers have also estimated, based on his Twitch subscriber count, that he is making roughly 18.5k a year from Twitch, which is below minimum wage. On top of that, most of the growth metrics around the channel are moving in the wrong direction. Subscriber numbers are slipping, and the overall trend is negative. But the numbers are only part of the problem. Streaming introduces a a completely different dynamic compared to edited YouTube videos. When you upload a video, you can cut things out, you can redo lines, and if something embarrassing happens, it never sees the light of day. Live streaming does not work like that at all. When something awkward happens on stream, it gets clipped instantly and lives on the internet forever. And that has not exactly worked in Ian's favor. A huge portion of the clips circulating from his streams involve uncomfortable moments with Anissa. There are dozens of them at this point, and a lot of them follow the same pattern. Anissa says something that clearly irritates Ian, and you can see the reaction on his face in real time. One clip in particular gets shared constantly. During the stream, Anissa starts talking about how she thinks Ian struggles to appeal to straight women. The moment she says it, you can hear the shift in his tone. He gets visibly irritated and tries to brush it off, but the damage is already done because the clip is now circulating everywhere.
I'm just gonna let it play and stand back.
Yeah, I think if you shaved the mustache and trimmed up the mullet, I think you would appeal to gay and bisexual men, mostly.
Gay and bisexual men, that would be my strategy.
No, and bisexual women. I think actually your strongest demographic is bisexual women right now, as is.
Okay.
I actually don't think there's a world
where I appeal to straight women.
You could appeal to straight women.
I think you're right. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. That lines up with my history.
Appealing to straight women, specifically straight women, I think would be, it's just not, your vibe is not, it doesn't really.
Then there is another moment where Anissa talks about not wanting to have his children because of his genetics. This time though, it wasn't even a live stream moment clipped before it got taken down. This was directly from their pre-recorded podcast.
I find it fascinating because if I look at you, even in the viewfinder, extremely masculine chin, which is also why I like the buzz cut because it emphasizes your chin and your heavy brow. I would argue you have one of the most... Part of the reason why I don't want to have a child with you is because I'm terrified if we have a girl that she's going to have all your masculine features.
Isn't that interesting? I think about that a lot.
Yeah. I have never met somebody who has such an eagle face. You have a very strong brow, which is very attractive on men. To be honest, there's a lot of attractive women that have that as well, like Kristen Stewart.
Yeah.
But combined with me... Mm-hmm. I think the combination would be bad for a woman.
I think you're tripping.
I don't know.
And of course, there are the moments that almost feel surreal, like Ian appearing on stream in a dragon VTuber avatar while begging for viewers to subscribe.
Please, I need your subs. Look at this, the Denny's patrons. They're rapidly declining. We need your subs. We need them now!
At this point, there are so many clips floating around that it is almost impossible to keep track of them all. Every stream seems to generate another batch of awkward moments that get chopped up and reposted across social media. But recently, something even stranger happened. After mostly staying in the background during Ian's streams, Anissa suddenly decided to start streaming again herself. She went live on her own channel and essentially rebooted her old content. For people who only know her from the last few years of YouTube drama, that might seem random. But before she became widely known as Ian's partner, Anissa actually built her own presence online as a streamer who talked about internet drama. What really surprised people though was how she handled the stream. If you've watched Ian's Twitch streams, you probably know how the moderation usually works. Any kind of criticism in chat gets wiped out almost instantly. Even mild pushback can get someone banned within seconds. The chat is heavily controlled and usually pretty quiet as a result. Anissa's stream, however, looked completely different. Instead of banning critics, she actually interacted with them. Trolls were posting questions in chat, and she was responding to them directly. People started bringing up internet drama, asking about different personalities, and instead of shutting down the conversation, she leaned into it. Names like Andy Warski and Ethan Ralph started popping up in chat, along with references to the show Kino Casino. Instead of dodging the topic, Anissa bantered with viewers. At one point, she even bantered with people about how she was mind-controlling Ian.
When are you going to divorce Ian so he can go back to his old self? Also, I have two more. Hey, man, I'm sorry. He's forever my victim. I put, I don't know, like 5 milligrams of lead to keep him docile. It's never happening. And it's specifically because I enjoy you guys having your childhood hero ripped away from you. Like, I get a lot of joy from your life being disrupted.
Even people who normally dislike Anissa admitted the stream felt more entertaining than most of the recent iDubbbz streams. The chat was active, the conversations felt more natural, and the whole thing had a chaotic energy that viewers found refreshing. It highlights one of the biggest issues with Ian's current approach to streaming. When everything is tightly controlled and criticism is instantly removed, the stream starts to feel lifeless. Viewers notice that. Meanwhile, the one stream where the chat is allowed to be messy and unpredictable ends up generating more interest than the carefully moderated ones. From the outside looking in, it's honestly hard to understand how Ian and Anissa ended up in the position they're in right now. But when you actually break it down, the process is pretty simple. It just happens step by step. The first step is destroying every positive connection you have. Friends, collaborators, creators who used to defend you, it doesn't really matter why. Ego, pride, stubbornness, whatever the reason is, the end result is the same. Bridges get torched, and the circle around you gets smaller and smaller. You could see this happen pretty clearly with the fallout around the creator clash situation. Step 2 is constantly feeding the trolls, and I mean constantly. Instead of ignoring obvious bait, you respond to everything. Big criticism, small criticism, random comments with 2 likes sitting at the bottom of a thread, nothing goes unanswered. Every negative post gets attention. Every jab gets a response. Once you run out of people to burn bridges with, the next move is attaching yourself to someone much bigger, preferably a streamer with a huge audience. Someone like Hasan Piker. One side clearly wants the connection a lot more than the other, and when the larger creator barely acknowledges it, the whole thing starts to become pretty one-sided. Then you reach the final step of the cycle, streaming constantly to a heavily moderated chat where anyone even slightly critical gets removed. At the same time, you keep saying that everyone on the internet is obsessed with you, and that is basically where things are now. Ian keeps sliding deeper into the spiral because he never really steps away from it. The cycle just keeps repeating over and over again. The problem is that people are starting to lose interest in the spectacle. The constant humiliations that once fueled clips and discussions online are starting to feel repetitive, and the numbers are showing it. Even after winning Lolcal of the Year, views are dropping, especially on the live streams. You know things are getting rough when the conversation suddenly shifts to something like boxing Sam Hyde if he gains enough weight.
Will you ever box again? Yeah, you know, I was thinking about that. And I think once I'm like comfortably in the 200 to 210 pound range, and I've been able to maintain that for like, I don't know, 6 months or something, I think I'll box Sam Hyde. I need to get some sort of revenge.
A few years ago, Ian would not even bring up Sam Hyde's name. Just mentioning him would bring back an entire wave of controversy he clearly wanted to avoid. Now, it feels like the kind of headline that has to be thrown out there just to get people talking again. And that's the real problem with this whole situation. When the attention starts fading, the temptation to create bigger and louder moments gets stronger. Every new statement has to be more dramatic than the last just to keep the cycle going. It turns into an endless spiral where the only real exit would be stepping away from the chaos entirely. Whether Ian ever decides to do that is another question, because at this point, the pattern has been repeating for a long time, and patterns like that usually do not break on their own.